You wake up, and before breakfast, before coffee, sometimes before you're even fully awake, you open the cabinet and take your medications. Maybe 3 pills, maybe 5, maybe more. You've been doing this a long time. Your doctor prescribed them. Your pharmacist filled them. You trust that system, and you should. But somewhere in the last year or two, something shifted. You're more tired than you used to be. Your memory isn't what it was. You get dizzy when you stand up too fast. Your sleep has changed too. You fall asleep fine, but you're wide awake at 2 or 3 in the morning and can't get back down. Some mornings your balance feels off. And in the evenings, your mind gets a kind of fog that quietly worries you. You've mentioned this to your doctor, maybe to your family, and you keep hearing the same thing back. That's just what getting older feels like. Maybe that's true. Or maybe it isn't. What if it is not aging? Over the next 22 minutes, I want to show you 4 things. Why a medication that was perfectly safe for you at 45 can behave very differently in your body after 60. Not because your doctor got anything wrong, but because your body changed in ways most prescriptions were never built to account for. What researchers call the prescribing cascade, a pattern with an actual name in geriatric medicine, where someone goes from one condition and one prescription to 6 or 7 medications without a single doctor ever making a mistake. 7 warning signs that get chalked up to aging almost automatically, but that published research ties to specific medication effects in people over 65. Signs you might be living with right now. And 5 questions you can bring to your very next appointment, questions almost nobody hands seniors, that could genuinely change the conversation with your doctor. But first, I want to tell you about Margaret. Margaret is 67. She lives with her husband in the house they've owned for 31 years. She retired 18 months ago from a job she was good at and loved. She's organized, careful, the kind of patient doctors call compliant, meaning she does everything right. She takes her medications on schedule every morning, sees her primary care doctor 3 times a year, gets her blood work done, brings her prescription bottles to every appointment, and asks questions when something feels off. And for the 2 years before her daughter finally pushed for a full medication review, Margaret was not doing well. She'd lose words mid-sentence, right there a second ago. Then gone. She was falling asleep on the couch after lunch nearly every day, even after 8 full hours the night before. Some mornings she felt unsteady the moment she stood up. Her mouth stayed dry constantly. And she'd started having bladder trouble she found so embarrassing she'd quietly stopped mentioning it to anyone, including her doctor. Every single one of those symptoms had come up at some point, been noted, discussed briefly, chalked up to getting older. 3 of the 6 medications Margaret was taking were on an official, published list, maintained by some of the most respected geriatric medicine specialists in the country, built specifically to flag medications that can cause exactly those effects in people over 65. Her doctor had never pulled up that list during any of her visits. Her pharmacist had never mentioned it at the counter. And Margaret had no idea it existed. I'll come back to her, and I'll tell you exactly what happened once someone finally looked at the whole picture. None of what I'm about to tell you is new, and none of it is up for debate. A 2022 study in JAMA Network Open, one of the most rigorously peer-reviewed journals in medicine, found that older adults are badly underrepresented in the clinical trials that establish how a drug should be dosed. In plain terms, the number on your prescription label was very often worked out by testing that drug on a younger body. Different liver, different kidneys, a completely different metabolic rate. The American Geriatric Society has kept a running document since 1991, updated every few years by a panel of specialists, called the Beers Criteria. The 2023 edition names specific medications and specific categories of medications that may need real caution in adults over 65. This isn't some fringe theory. It's published in the Journal of the American Geriatric Society and cited thousands of times in the medical literature. And still, most people over 65 have never heard of it. Most primary care doctors, buried in a full schedule, don't have it pulled up during a routine visit. It almost never comes up at the pharmacy counter. I'll walk you through what's actually on that list in the next video. Specific names. Specific categories. The CDC reports that close to half of all adults over 65 take 5 or more medications at once. A 2024 analysis in JAMA found polypharmacy, the clinical word for taking multiple medications, has nearly doubled among older Americans over the past 20 years. What the research is starting to look at more closely is what happens when those medications combine, not in a 50-year-old body, but in yours. In about 5 minutes, I'm going to hand you one word. One specific clinical term that might explain why what you've been calling just aging is actually something measurable, and in a lot of cases, something that can change. Hold on to that. To understand why medications act differently after 60, you need to understand two things about how your body handles them, and how that changes with time. Picture your body as a two-part factory. You swallow a medication, and it goes to the liver first. The liver is the processing plant. It breaks the compound down, alters it chemically, and releases it into the bloodstream in a form the body can actually use. Then the kidneys take over. They're the disposal system, filtering the medication back out and routing it out of the body. When both parts are running well, the drug does its job and clears out on the timeline the original dosing study assumed. After 60, that factory starts to change. Liver volume can shrink by up to 40% between 25 and 65. The enzymes that break medications down decline with it. Processing simply takes longer. Kidney filtration drops by roughly 1% a year after 40. By 65, most people are filtering at 60 to 70% of what they did at 40. The drug stays in the system longer than the label ever assumed, so a 65-year-old taking the exact same dose prescribed at 50 may actually be carrying more active medication in their system day after day than that number was ever meant to deliver. Not because the dose is wrong on paper. Because the body it was written for isn't the body taking it anymore. Now stack a second medication on top. A third. A fourth. Most drug trials test 2 compounds together, at most. The combination most seniors are actually taking, 4, 5, 6 medications at once, has often never been formally studied together in an older body over years of use. The interactions are real. The buildup is real. And the symptoms it produces can look almost identical to just getting older. The question isn't whether your medications interact, it's whether anyone has actually checked. I want to walk you through something geriatric researchers have documented so often it has its own name. The prescribing cascade. Here's how it plays out. Someone is prescribed a medication for a real, legitimate condition, blood pressure, say, it works. The numbers come down, but it also brings a mild side effect. Nothing dramatic, some fatigue, maybe a little dizziness on standing. At the next visit, the patient mentions the fatigue. The doctor, seeing a real complaint from a real patient, prescribes something for it. A second medication enters the picture. That one carries its own effects. One of them looks like a different symptom, upset stomach, maybe, or trouble sleeping, or a flatter mood. Another appointment. Another conversation. Another prescription. This isn't malpractice. It isn't negligence. Either, not one doctor in that chain did anything wrong. Each one responded reasonably to what was in front of them in a 15-minute visit with the information they had at the time. The problem is structural. The doctor managing your blood pressure may never see what the cardiologist adds 6 months later. The specialist adding a third medication may not have the full list of the first 2. Your pharmacist fills each prescription as it comes in. but a genuine review of everything together. Looking specifically for what changes in an older body isn't something most healthcare systems do automatically. Every doctor holds one piece of the picture. You're often the only one who sees all of it. And most people have never been given the language or the questions to notice what they're actually looking at. The prescribing cascade isn't rare. Researchers in geriatric medicine describe it as one of the most common and most preventable patterns in senior healthcare. It's also nearly invisible until someone decides to look for it. And now, you know to look. Warning sign 5 is the one that catches people off guard the moment it clicks with their own medication list. I'll get to it in about 2 minutes. 7 warning signs. I'm not going to hand you a clinical checklist first. I want you to hear these the way they actually feel, before I give you the medical term for any of them. The first one. You're tired. Not the kind a good night's sleep clears up. A low, steady tiredness that's there when you wake and there when you go to bed. You've adjusted your life around it. You've decided it's just age. Researchers see this pattern often in studies of drug accumulation in older adults. When the liver processes slowly and the kidneys clear slowly, medication can build up in the blood past what was intended, and persistent fatigue is often one of the first signs. The second, your memory isn't as sharp. Words go missing mid-sentence. They're a second ago. Then simply not. You walk into a room and forget why. You've mentioned it. You've been told it's normal for your age. There's a specific clinical term for what a certain class of medications can do to memory and cognition in older adults. I promised you one word earlier. Here it is. Anticholinergic burden. Write it down if you need to. It refers to the cumulative effect of medications, sometimes several at once, that block a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, which plays a central role in memory, attention, and how you process information. Research is examining its link to memory changes, commonly written off as normal aging in people over 65. Several medications on the Beers criteria fall into this category. Medications that are widely prescribed and that millions of seniors take every single day. The third, you get dizzy standing up too fast. You've caught yourself grabbing a door frame, a counter, a wall, more than once this year. You were told to just stand up slower. Orthostatic hypotension, a drop in blood pressure when you change position, is one of the most commonly documented side effects of blood pressure medications in older adults. The CDC lists falls as the leading cause of injury-related death in adults over 65, and the research linking certain medications to fall risk in this age group is extensive. The fourth, your sleep has changed. Falling asleep isn't the issue. It's waking at 2 or 3 and lying there, unable to drop back off. Or sleeping heavily and still feeling groggy well into the morning, foggy, not quite present. A medication you're taking, possibly one prescribed to help you sleep, may be disrupting the deep sleep stages that the aging brain relies on most, the ones responsible for restoring memory and clearing out metabolic waste overnight. The fifth. This is the one. Moments, usually in the evening when you're tired, that feel like confusion. A fog. Your own thinking feels unmoored for a second. You reach for your own name mid-sentence, and there's a half second of nothing. You don't tell people about this one, because the word you're afraid of is too big to say out loud. Drug-induced cognitive impairment is a real, documented condition. In many cases, it can look clinically identical to early dementia. And the difference that changes everything is this. Unlike dementia, this can respond to change. The sixth. Your appetite isn't what it was. Food doesn't taste the same. You're eating less, and you can't fully explain why. Certain medication combinations, especially once they build up in an older body over time, can suppress appetite, dull taste, and speed up the muscle loss and nutritional gaps that then get pinned on age. The seventh. You feel anxious in a way you can't quite explain. Not about anything specific, just a low, constant hum of something being slightly off that you can't name or shake. Research documents this as one of the paradoxical effects some older adults experience on certain long-term medications, including, in some cases, medications originally prescribed to ease this exact feeling. 7 signs. Any one alone could reasonably be age. 3 or 4 together, in someone on multiple medications, is worth a closer look. I told you I'd come back to Margaret. 3 months after her daughter kept pushing, gently, persistently, the way daughters sometimes have to, Margaret's doctor agreed to a full medication review. Her daughter had tracked down a geriatrician in their area, a physician who specializes in exactly this kind of care, and he sat down with the entire list. 6 medications. 3 of them were on the Beers criteria for adults over 65. One had actually been prescribed to treat a side effect of another, a side effect already documented in the published research for that drug class. The prescribing cascade, sitting right there in plain sight once somebody knew to look for it. Over the next 4 months, working closely with her doctors, Margaret came off 2 medications entirely and had a third reduced to a dose appropriate for her age and kidney function. None of it happened overnight. None of it happened without her doctors guiding every step. The dry mouth cleared up in the first few weeks. The afternoon exhaustion started to lift. The unsteady mornings became rare, and the evening fog, the one she'd never told anyone about, was gone. Her daughter said it was the biggest change she'd seen in her mother in 2 years. At her next appointment, her doctor looked across the desk at her and said 3 words. "You're back, Margaret. That's really what all of this is about. Not a chart, not a prescription count. A person, getting to come back to herself. Here are 5 questions to bring to your next appointment. Not to challenge your doctor, to open a conversation most doctors would welcome having. 1. Is every medication I'm currently taking still necessary, or was any of it originally prescribed to handle a side effect of something else on my list? 2. Have my doses been reviewed with my current age, kidney function, and liver function in mind? 3. Are any of my medications on the American Geriatric Society's Beers criteria for adults over 65? 4. Has anyone looked at my complete list? Every prescription, every over-the-counter medication, every supplement, together, all at once. 5. Am I eligible for a Medicare Part D medication therapy management review? That last one matters. The Medicare Part D MTM program gives you a one-on-one session with a pharmacist or qualified professional at no extra cost under most Part D plans, specifically to go through your full medication list and flag anything worth a second look. Research suggests fewer than 1 in 3 eligible seniors has ever used it. Most don't even know it's there. One thing to do today. Before anything else, write down every medication, supplement, vitamin, and over-the-counter product you take. The dose. The time you take it. Every single one. That list, complete and in your own handwriting, is the single most useful thing you can bring into any medical appointment for the rest of your life. In the next video, I'm going to do something specific. I'm going to name medications, not vague categories, actual names, actual classes. The Beers criteria flags several categories that are widely prescribed and widely taken. Ones geriatric specialists have raised real concerns about for adults over 65. Some of them you'll recognize the second I say them. One of the medications on that list is taken by more than half of all seniors. Every single day, there's a real chance it's in your cabinet right now. You deserve to know its name. If this helped you even a little, send it to someone you love who's on multiple medications. Not for the channel. Because someone in your life might be living through exactly what I described today, and they deserve to hear it too. The information The questions? Those are mine to give you. The answers belong to your doctor. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. It is not medical advice. Never stop, reduce, or change any prescription medication without first speaking to your doctor or pharmacist. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional before making any decisions about your medications.